TRiDENT, at least in my opinion, the most exciting upcoming hard rock band from Japan, if not band at all, who haven't quite broken out into the full international sphere yet. I mean, yes, there's a lot of us online listening to them and they are getting popular, but they haven't quite managed to break into doing those big overseas tours and the big venues and festivals like some of their larger peers have. Yet I certainly tip them as the band most going that way, certainly the band who I'm most excited about going in that direction. So with their new song RePaint just suddenly dropping out of nowhere, I follow their social medias, I didn't see this coming. I was really excited to give it several listens, which I have done, and it is the song we're talking about today. We're going to unpack the song RePaint and see if it keeps on taking TRiDENT on that upward trajectory that they've been heading on for quite a long time now, and see really if it does take them further towards their success. Let's unpack. Hi everyone, welcome back to Japan, where one of the main reasons why I've tipped TRiDENT so much up until this point is because I felt that in so many ways they've really gone above and beyond what I'd expect from most of these kind of bands, primarily in songwriting. I mean, yes, all of their songs pretty much fit somewhere in the hard rock genre, and yet for a lot of bands like that, I must admit the musicianship often outstrips the songwriting. Now, this is not to say they're not fantastic musicians. I mean, that just if you watch the videos that Nagisa puts online of her doing drum covers, they're absolutely amazing. Serena is brilliant, you hear it in every single song where she's on bass, and the vocal work and guitar is just superb. I mean, really gives so much character to TRiDENT throughout. However, songwriting is really where they stand out. Every single one of their songs seems to have its own identity. I mean, yes, there's always going to be a certain degree of doing some songs that sound like other songs before, but they never feel like they're just sort of bringing out the same formula. They really do cover every single aspect of the hard rock genre, and each song sounds like it has its own purpose, its own direction. And this certainly really hit big for them when they had the song Spoopy, which really got a lot of reaction from people online. I've been hyping them from a while back, certainly going back to the girls rock band Kakume phase, where I first heard several of the members. But, you know, Spoopy was where you really felt the support went behind them. It was interesting, it had a bit of a synth vibe to it in places, it had lots of little EDM and hard rock elements as well as their usual signature melodic style, and yet it really did put them forwards. Cry Out was a fantastic follow-up, and again then they had Signal, which was a single that showed that they were capable of still doing variation with something a little bit more ballad focused. So we had that, they were riding on a high, and then we had a bit of a pause, and then we get this new song, RePaint. So first thing to really talk about is, does it maintain the quality of songwriting that we expect from this band? The simplest answer would basically be yes. Now, in style, once again, it sounds nice and unique from plenty of their songs before. I would say of those last three singles I mentioned, it's probably more in keeping with that kind of Cry Out feel, and that it's a fairly sort of mid to high tempo rocking song that's certainly charging along. It's not going for anything too heavy, but it doesn't sound like they're trying to capitalize on their recent sort of bursting into more success by trying to, if you like, regurgitate a song, which is very tempting when your popularity, when the stock in your band is starting to suddenly rise. No, this does sound like a song that's been written with its own intention, with its own design, with its own basic thesis. You know, they wanted to give you something different, and that's what they did here. It wasn't just a regurgitation. Now, in the case of this song, the good writing's very much on show in the fact that, well, really, just look at the chord pattern. I noticed that if you listen through to this, you get the intro, but then really, virtually at no point in this song do you get a chord pattern repeating until you're a very good long way into the song towards the end. I mean, the verse itself is broken into several sections. The very first verse starts with a chord pattern that is descending, 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 then goes up a little bit, then it focuses on sort of going round through four chords, and then before it even repeats those four chords, the chord pattern speeds up, then we get a pre-chorus, and we get the chorus. The chorus itself is not one that particularly regurgitates the chord pattern. I keep on using that word, apologies, sounds a bit gross, but it doesn't keep on repeating the same chord pattern. This is a song that is very, very keen on every single moment the song is trying to do something new, which is really a sign of a lot of attention going into a songwriting where so often so much of the music that we love, even from really good artists, has a lot of repeating things in it. Now, the potential downside of this is the fact that the song itself probably does take several listens to get the most out of, and I must admit it does struggle a little bit with being too catchy and, you know, not managing to really quite sort of settle with you in a way that it goes round in your head, just because of the fact that it doesn't really repeat itself very much. And that is a good thing in a lot of senses, and that every time you listen through to it, especially if you were listening through to it as part of an album, it would be a song that would sound fresh, it would never sound tiresome. It also loses that ability to become an earworm, which you would kind of expect from a single, especially a first single, seemingly from what I would expect as a new batch of songs. So yes, it achieves something very interesting by having that attention to songwriting, but perhaps loses the ability to be a bit more of an earworm. But I guess the more important question is, does the song have the intended impact when you are listening to it? Rather than thinking about whether it sticks in your head days later and makes you want to come back to it, or tries to remind you by getting drilled into your brain that it's still around, does it actually work once you press play? Well, overall, I would say yes. All the various segments of the song, like I say, are very interesting, but they have their own impact. I mean, most notably, the chorus, despite not being particularly catchy, it does definitely feel like a chorus. You always know the feeling of a good chorus because every time you come back round to it, it's the part where the song feels like it's got that catharsis. It feels where the feeling's really coming out. You know, you build up the tension in a sort of normal song setup through the verses, the pre-chorus, and then the chorus is where everything's sort of let go and you get that big sort of celebratory or cathartic feel, and definitely that is here in this song. The choruses are big, they're powerful, you hear the voice being sort of blasted out, and there is just a real sense that yes, this song does have an effective refrain. It also has an interesting bridge. Yes, there's nothing particularly complicated in the bridge here, but it goes through several phases. You know, it chills out, we get a bit of a guitar solo, then we get a bit with the piano, and it sort of builds up into the last chorus. It all basically does make for an interesting journey. It's a song that when you're listening to it, you get a clear feeling, it goes through all the phases and moves very interestingly. Like I say, it doesn't repeat itself, so you don't feel at any point like you're listening to something that's too predictable. You don't feel like you just stop the song halfway through and already kind of know how it's going to conclude. So yes, it's very impactful at the time, but perhaps not a song, like I say, that is going to hugely stick in your memory. Which brings me on to a bit of a conclusion about this. See, in conclusion, I think this is a really good song, but I think it kind of feels a little bit like an album track to me. TRiDENT are certainly a band who know how to do catchy songs and choruses and songs with impact, but this is a song that more just feels like an exercise in quality songwriting. And as I say, one that when you're listening to it, you really enjoy it, but you don't feel necessarily like you're being dragged back to. And of course, the point of a single, the reason why you listen to it separately from an album, although I know most people don't do album listening now, so maybe this is an outdated statement, but the reason why you have a single is it's the sort of thing that's supposed to remind you that an album's coming out, or remind you constantly, oh, I need to buy that song, or at least listen to it on streaming, given the figures. It's a song that's supposed to make you want to come back over and over again. That's not what this is. This feels like a really high quality album track, the sort of song that you find as a hidden gem rather than it's pushed out as a thing to promote the band. I'd be interested to see what other people say, but that's kind of the vibe I get from it. It also doesn't do, because you can have catchy songs be the ones that make the single, but also a lot of the time you get people who are really taken by songs that have a lot of noodling in them, because, you know, if you're a real sort of guitar nerd, then you're going to be the sort of person who goes, yeah, guitar nerd, I want to go back and listen to this band, share this band with my friends, because just listen how awesome the playing is. As awesome as the playing is in TRiDENT songs, this is one where it's relatively restrained. You know, like with a lot of their best songs, a lot of the most complicated stuff is kind of, you have to listen to it. It's not put front and center, you know, you're not getting crazy wailing guitar solos or anything like that, because once again, their focus is primarily on constructing a song that sounds like a song rather than just to showcase their abilities. So this is, in a lot of ways, good songwriting, but very sort of modest, and, you know, it comes across just, like I say, as a solid song that's not designed to blow your mind, just as a good listen. Maybe not stick in your memory, just a good listen while it's on. So I would say I find it a rather curious choice as a single. I'd be very interested to see what follows this up. Maybe this is just them putting this out to announce their return. Not they've been away that long, but, you know, maybe just announce they've got upcoming music. Certainly nothing wrong with that. I think it's got a video which in itself is, it's good. It's one of those videos, it's very much the sort of video that is popular with bands who are working on medium budgets, and, you know, lots of flashing lights, lots of visual stuff, but overall it's pretty much standard performance-based video with nothing particularly complicated or that we haven't seen before. It's just kind of like a visual representation where you get to see the band play and there's some flashing lights, and that basically is enough to represent the feeling visually of the song. So yeah, I found this good, but this was like TRiDENT doing, just kind of assuring you that they're still a damn good band. Rather than taking us anywhere we haven't been, or rather than blowing our minds, So for me, this doesn't necessarily build on Trident and take them to a higher place. This is just more an assurance that, yeah, you're still dealing with that same band who put quality of songwriting first, who still pay a lot of attention to detail, who want to make their songs interesting. But it's that. It's more of an assurance that Trident are still the band who I am excited about, rather than necessarily the thing that's going to throw open the doors for them, blow anyone's mind, or necessarily change any or raise any expectations. So if you already like Trident, you're going to like this. You really are. If you're not already a Trident fan, this might not well sell you on them any more than you had already been sold on them. But I would definitely say if you just like good songwriting and you want to hear something that shows attention to detail, go check this out, but then go and check out all the Trident anyway. So those are my thoughts. As always, get in the comments to tell me what you think, and until I hopefully see you very soon in Japan. I almost said in Trident. Trident is not a place, it's a band. Until I hopefully see you very soon in Japan for the next one of these. For now, ciao, ciao.